Hello everyone, welcome back to another ASMR history lesson. Some of you have requested a video about this particular topic. Today we're gonna talk about the Third Reich. Now, before I start telling you about the Third Reich, I need to remind you that in this video I cannot post any pictures of swastikas or similar material. Also, in this video you won't hear any glorification, admiring of Adolf Hitler or the things he did. And the topic here is the Third Reich, so I won't talk about the Second World War or similar things. Now, let's start. So, the Third Reich was an authoritarian or totalitarian state that existed from 1933 to 1945. Before the state was established, we always have to ask ourselves, what was before that? And before that there was a terrible time for the whole world and Germany in particular. Germany lost World War I, and the Allies, France, Great Britain in particular, said that Germany has to pay reparations for that. And of course, there was a world economic crisis in the 1920s and 1930s, not only in Germany but basically worldwide. And in Germany it was the most devastating. The unemployed rate was over 30%. There was a hyperinflation. It meant that one loaf of bread costs 1 billion, or you can say 100 billion of Reichsmark. It was the currency back then. So you can imagine the people were fed up, they were angry, and then one guy came and said he will solve all these problems. And this guy was none other than Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, he was actually not from Germany himself, he was from Austria. Well, you can say their both the same people, and I agree with it. Some of you who watch this video will maybe disagree, but I think Germans, Swiss, Austrians and so on, they are basically one people, but that's another topic. So Hitler promised that he will solve all these problems. He will take care of unemployment, and the Versailler Vertrag, that treaty, basically said that Germany has to pay reparations, and some parts of the German Reich had to leave. For example, Alsace-Lothringen went to France, and other parts as well, like some parts that now belong to Poland or South Tyrol that went to Italy. So Hitler promised many things, and he blamed one particular group for all the problems Germany had at that time, and this group were the Jews. During that time they made around 1 to 2% of the population, and Hitler said that they are responsible that Germany lost World War I. They are responsible that the unemployment rate is so high, and if you're gonna vote for me, I'm gonna take care of this problem. So Hitler had he actually had two paramilitary factions. It was the Sturmabteilung, or SA or SA, and Schutzstaffel SS. But the SA was the first and the SS was the second. They came later. During that time, Hitler was not alone. There were many, you can say, paramilitary factions at that time. The SPD, the ruling party back then, had one too. It was called Eiserne Front, the Iron Front, or the DNVP, DNVP, Deutsche Nationale Volkspartei, German National Volksparty, monarchist party. They had one, it was called a Stahlfront, like a steel front. So Hitler tried to take over the Bavarian government with a coup d'état in 1923. He was inspired by it, by Mussolini, who basically did it 1 year earlier in Italy. He succeeded, but Hitler did not. He failed, and he came to prison. And during that time he wrote Mein Kampf. His sentence was actually 5 years, but it was reduced to 9 months. And after he was released out of prison, he decided that he wants to take over the government, but by democratic and legal means. In the 1928 elections, he only got around 3% of the vote, there, so not many people were impressed by him, but the economic crisis got worse and more worse by the year. In 1929 there was a big stock market crash in the USA, and it also had a big impact on Germany. From then on, the unemployment rate was even higher than before, and inflation also skyrocketed. And of course, it was very beneficial for Adolf Hitler. 1 year later, he already had almost 20% of the world, and in 1933 he got 44% of the world, not the absolute majority, but the DNVP, Deutsche Nationale Volkspartei, who had 8% of the world, decided that they will unite with Hitler, and so Hitler had the absolute majority in the Reichstag, the German parliament, if you want to say it like that. So there was a Reichstag Sprint a few months later, after Hitler came to power, and Hitler blamed it on communists and socialist agitators, paramilitaries, and he could justify to establish a police state like that, the so-called Ermächtigungsgesetz. It means like giving someone absolute power. So from then on, Hitler could basically do whatever he wanted. So Germany became an totalitarian state. Hitler established labor camps in which he imprisoned people who were against him, Jews, communists, socialists, Democrats, monarchists, basically everyone who was against him. Many say that Hitler, despite being so evil, he did some good things. For example, the unemployment rate under him was very low. Unemployment was basically non-existent. The inflation was gone. It was basically almost 0%, and Hitler, or not Hitler, but among his reign, his state, new inventions came to light, like the famous drink Fanta was invented by the Nazis, and many cars, many clothing like Adidas, Hugo Boss, and so on. They had great military weapons like the Tiger tank and so on. Well, wherever you say, yes, those were, Hitler was a monster, but he did some good things. Or you can say that, yes, it doesn't matter which things he did, that little good things he did doesn't compensate said what terrifying things he did later. Yeah, you know that many Germans during that time supported him. I believe, you can say that far more than 50% of the German population back then supported Adolf Hitler. And in my opinion, many were brainwashed by his so-called accomplishments, if you wanted to say it like that, because many were impressed that Hitler managed to tackle unemployment and hyperinflation and so on. Many Germans were proud that they kinda, if you want to say it, destroyed the Versailles Vertrag, the Versailles Treaty, and they kinda became strong again, like they were economically, politically and militarily one of the most powerful nations in the world, if not the most powerful nation in the world. So, in 1939, the Second World War started, and it lasted until May 1945, which ended in the total loss, destruction of the Third Reich and Germany. Well, some things regarding Second World War. There are some historians that claim Hitler could have won the war. For example, in the Battle of Dunkirk, he made a mistake. He could have defeated the British troops, but he gave an withdrawing order, and the British soldiers, the British army managed to fled. And also in the Soviet Union, when he invaded the Soviet Union, he made tactical mistakes. Some of his generals wanted to invade Moscow, but some others wanted to go south to the Caucasus because they wanted the oil there. Oil was very important, so there was, you can say, an inner conflict between his generals and Adolf Hitler. There's one general called Erich von Martenstein. He wrote a book called Verlorene Siege, which means lost victories. And in that book, he claimed that if Hitler wouldn't have been the commander-in-chief, we would have won, for example, the Battle of Kursk. So there are some historians and also some conspiracy theorists who say that Hitler lost the war on purpose. He was an Illuminati puppet and so on. Well, I think that's enough. The video is running over 20 minutes now, I think. A a few words to the end. It is a very controversial topic I'm doing here now, so I repeat it again. I'm not making this video to glorify the Nazis, Adolf Hitler, or anyone else. If you will comment on this video admiring Hitler and so on, your comment will be deleted. I know there's freedom of speech, but please understand that. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this little history lesson, and if you liked the video, discuss it in the comments below. I see you next time. God bless.